What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode, and Baylor is your 2021 national champs. I know a lot of you thought Gonzaga was going to win it. 31-0. Could they be considered the best team ever? No, but that was the talk of the town. Gonzaga this, Gonzaga that, and as it should. You go 31-0, hey, that's phenomenal, right? At the Division I level, that is completely respectable. You got to you got to shout out the Zags. That's a tough thing to do. Yes, they played in the WCC conference, which is as soft as it can get against Pepperdine, St. Mary's, San Francisco, Loyola Marymount. I mean, awful. But Gonzaga can't really, control that. What I respect about them, they played as hard as a non-conference schedule as you should. So, shout out to the Zags. But, like I said before, if not now, when is it ever going to happen for Gonzaga? This is the best team Mark Few's ever had. This is the best team in Gonzaga's program history. 31-0. They were the best team the whole entire, season. But when can you knock that barrier down and win a national championship? Because you have a top 5 pick in Jalen Suggs. Top 5 picks don't walk through the door at Gonzaga every day. You had a really good big man in Drew Timmy. You have a possible top 10 pick in Corey Kiespert. So I don't see how you're ever going to do it. But to be fair to them, Baylor, nobody was beating Baylor. Nobody in the world that night would have beat Baylor. I said Baylor, 4.5 money line, take it. Hey, if you took my advice, you won it. So I hope you did. Because Baylor came out, they started on a 9-0 run. The game just was never close. Baylor is legit. They were, and I think they were really, I wouldn't say forgotten about most of the year. I was really high on them the whole year, but the hype kind of shifted towards Illinois, shifted towards Gonzaga. And I think Baylor, they still had the hype, but they kind of just got to sit in the back seat and not really have all the pressure. But you got to give a shout out to Scott Drew. Scott Drew has maybe the best rebuilding thing I've ever seen in all of sports. Look, I never thought Scott Drew was ever a national champion type of coach. But he proved me wrong. You got to give him credit. He took over a program that was dead, that nobody wanted to be a part of in 2003 because of everything going on. And he turned them into a fun team to watch that played great, intensity, great basketball IQ on both sides of the floor. That was the best rebuilding job. And why I say that is because, look, if you don't remember, most of you don't, Scott Drew in 2003, when he took the Baylor job, literally had one player murder another player. Physically killed another player when he took over the job. It's insane. 18 years from the day he accepted the job, Baylor's national champs. Congrats to Baylor and its fans, because let me tell you, that's not an easy rebuild. Baylor was one of the worst jobs you could possibly take at that time. And he took it, believed in himself, saw a vision, knew what he could do with it, and Baylor's been good. He's had them always good, but they could have won the championship last year. Unfortunately, we didn't have a tournament, but this year, he finally gets one. And he deserves it because Baylor showed they were the better team. Drew Timmy struggled for Gonzaga. Drew Timmy had not played against an athletic big like what Baylor had that whole time. That's just simple. That's facts. Drew Timmy struggled. He looked a little off because they were just bullying him all night because he just could not stand with them. And, Drew Timmy had a great year. You don't want to just look at it as one game, but when you needed him most, he disappeared. He was just getting his ass kicked all night. So, never forget though, okay, we could have had an undefeated versus undefeated national championship, right? Before Baylor went on COVID pause, which happened so many unbelievable times this year, they were on a lot of pauses. They were not the only undefeated team. Yeah, they were not only undefeated, but they won all of their games by 11 points or more before COVID struck their program. They were every bit as dominant as Gonzaga was, against better competition, by the way, playing in the Big 12, which is arguably the second best conference this year in college basketball, and they won all their games by double digits. Not bad. Until they got knocked off for 2 weeks for COVID. If that doesn't happen, we have this conversation where Baylor's an undefeated team, national champ. But that's not the case. But Baylor was legit, and they deserved this win. They were so much better. Everybody played their role. What Gonzaga, I was a little nervous with, also depth. They didn't have depth this whole year. Yes, you have Andrew Nemhard coming off the bench. Yes, you have Watson. Cook. But besides Nemhard, you don't really trust Watson. You don't really trust Cook. And you look at Baylor, yes, you can only start a game with 5 players, but Baylor has an 8 to 9 guys on that team who could start. Their bench is just as good. And let me give a shout out to Davion Mitchell. Davion Mitchell is the best two-way player in college basketball this past year. And he deserves to be a lottery pick. He declared to go pro, which as he should, because his basketball IQ was unbelievable. Unbelievable. I mean, he was the best player, two-way guy, and he just doesn't turn it over. Plays hard, good defensively, good captain, and that's what helped Baylor in the long run. So the Baylor Bears deserve this win without a doubt. Without a doubt. But Baylor's your 2021 national champions. It wasn't the greatest tournament, but hey, we got basketball, and that's all you could really ask for. But to stick with college basketball, because there is a lot of college basketball talk as we get into this before, it's one of the last shows where college basketball is kind of the main topic point, so let's keep it going. The transfer portal is a massive thing, and Devin Askew of Kentucky has now hit the portal. So, what makes me laugh, when I saw he was transferring, it made me think of a certain quote that occurred in my head. When Devin Askew committed to Kentucky, Kentucky's had a real problem of keeping their West Coast guys. You look at Johnny Juzang, Marcus Lee, Kyle Wiltshire, a long list. And then guys go out, because they get homesick. Now, I'm not saying, West Coast is a little softer. It's just Kentucky's just struggled with West Coast kids. But the quote was, almost 1 year ago, April 5th, right? The day Devin Askew decided to transfer. He said, I'm different. I'm not like the other West Coast kids. Well, now he's transferring, so that was not a quote that really, that wasn't a good quote that aged well. But I think Devin Askew leaving just tells me Kentucky's getting a better point guard. I don't think it's more so Devin wanted to leave, and if he did, hey, he announced that he was coming back, and I think he might have wanted to be there. I think Kentucky, out-recruited him. They're going to get a guy better than him. Now, we don't know who this guy is. A lot of people speculate Marcus Carr from Minnesota, guy's a stud, or a couple other guys, but Devin Askew's not good enough to play at Kentucky. Now, he's a good player. I'm not knocking him at all, okay? He was a 5-star. He's talented. He's just not Kentucky talented. And I know that doesn't make sense to a lot of you, but it's true. Kentucky's not built for everybody, and Devin Askew's definitely not one of those guys. I think it's a good decision for Kentucky, and I think it's a good decision for Devin Askew, because Devin Askew wasn't going to play much next year if Kentucky's going to land Carr. So basically, it's better off for him, right? I think it's rare that parting ways is usually mutual. Usually it's one side towards the other, but I do think this one was kind of the case where both kind of came to terms and agreed, because I think it just makes sense for both of them. Devin Askew was horrible this year. Kentucky was horrible. And now it's time to go. And Kentucky's got a whole new team. If you look at Kentucky next year, right, which this is crazy. You go from a 9-win team that's absolutely terrible, right, to all of a sudden, now you're looking, they have their best scorer back in Davion Mintz if he decides to return, which that would be great. You have your best rebounder coming back, more than likely if he returns, in Keon Brooks. You have your best three-point shooter coming back, Dante Allen. And you also bring in very good role guys like Lance Ware and Jacob Toppin. Those are the guys you didn't want to leave you in the first place. The guys you did want to leave you, that were part of the problem of Kentucky being a 9-win team, is a bad point guard in Devin Askew. In a absolute bust of a 5-star in BJ Boston. Of a guy with, maybe character issues. A possible injury that could have been faked the whole year for all I care, in Terrence Clark, who, by the way, is projected to go undrafted and still win pro, by the way. And let's not forget, Isaiah Jackson is probably a lottery pick, and there is true consideration out of the Kentucky program that thinks Isaiah Jackson might be coming back to Kentucky. More than likely, I think he's going to go pro, but they've left the door open. Now think to yourself for a second, If Isaiah Jackson, a guy who has a chance to be a lottery pick or just outside the lottery, comes back to Kentucky, how does that make B.J. Boston look? How does that make Terrence Clark look? It doesn't make him look good. Some people have an ingrained mindset that I'm a one and done no matter how bad I can be. Like I've said this multiple times before, I scored as many points in the SEC tournament as B.J. Boston. Awful. Absolutely awful. But Devin's out, and I'm very happy about that because Kentucky's going to be a whole new team next year, and I'm excited for that because this year was absolutely horrendously bad. Horrendously. But that's that. Now we talk Sean Miller getting fired at Arizona. All right? Sean Miller is parted ways with Arizona after spending 12 years at Arizona. He had 1 year left on his contract, but he was charged, for basically the reason they're firing him. He was charged with head coach responsibility for failure to promote an atmosphere of compliance. The administration stuck by Miller for 4 years. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, Sean Miller is known to be a cheater. Or, yes, on wiretaps. Many think that he, paid DeAndre Ayton to come. There is phone wiring taps for paying other recruits. He had an assistant coach get arrested in the past. It's probably a good thing to do it because Arizona was good, but they haven't been. Arizona is, it's smart for their program to get rid of them because allegations could have came at the University of Arizona. They couldn't have made the tournament this year because of their cheating and recruiting. And Sean Miller, I'll tell you what he is. He's one of the best sweaters I've ever seen in my life. That guy goes through a white shirt like there's no tomorrow. But, yeah, Sean Miller out of Arizona, that's a big name. Big name that some people saw coming and some didn't. Now, Roy Williams, by the way, also retired, okay, from North Carolina. And maybe some of us saw this coming, maybe some of us didn't. I know we had Walker Kessler transfer. There was a couple guys that hit the portal. North Carolina, I wouldn't say they were going downhill. Just some things were happening, right? Well, they end up hiring Hubert Davis. Hubert Davis. A little bit of a questionable hire. And why I say that, I just don't know how in the world you give one of the two best college jobs in America, Kentucky, North Carolina, Duke, Kansas. Those are places you want to be at, right? But you're giving a head coaching job to a guy who's never coached. He's never been a head coach. Now, look, I laugh at Indiana. I'm saying Mike Woodson's a joke. That's going to be a god-awful hire, yada, yada, yada. Yes, he's never been a head coach in college, but he's been a head coach in the NBA. He's got a lot of great experience. And Indiana right now is not North Carolina. Still a very great place to coach there. Really good, Indiana. But Hubert Davis, North Carolina's got a lot of history behind it. And it's not easy replacing a legend in Roy Williams. Interesting decision to go with Hubert Davis. Not my number one choice personally, but North Carolina's decided to do that. So we'll see how that works out. But North Carolina kind of been struggling lately in the last couple of years. But Hubert Davis doesn't seem like that would be the right fit in my eyes. But hey, that's what North Carolina has decided to go with. Now, jumping to a little bit of baseball news. Nick Castellanos. Oh my God, this guy's making baseball fun again. If you personally don't like guys bat flipping or being very animated or celebrating, a very good amount, or admiring their homer, well, you're not fun at all. None of you guys are going to like Nick Castellanos. Everybody wants baseball to be played at such like the old age. Be respectful, yada, yada. It's just America's pastime. Don't do a bat flip. Don't stare down the other team. Run the bases. Make baseball fun again. Jesus. Nick Castellanos, what the hell did he do to get suspended for? Okay, if you don't know the story, they're playing the Cardinals. He gets hit by a pitch, stares down the pitcher, took it a little personally. No fight was happening, nothing. Well, then he goes in and he scores. But the pitcher went to go cover home. Castellanos slid in and was safe. And all Castellanos did was, give the pitcher a stare down. Well, it led to a little bench clearing altercation, not fights, nothing, anything, just, grown men having words with each other. And the MLB and Rob Manfred, who I absolutely despise, you're a joke, has suspended Castellanos 2 games. Now, he's over here appealing the suspension, but there was no fight when he slid into home. And the last time I checked, flexing at home plate is not a suspendable offense. So, shout out to you, Rob Manfred, once again, making baseball fun again. You're just phenomenal, aren't you? You're phenomenal. Rob Manfred's a joke. An absolute joke is what he is. And he makes Roger Goodell look like a great human being. So that's not easy to do. But Castellanos got suspended. The Reds are the best team in baseball. Believe it or not, as of now, the Reds are 5-1. Cincinnati is scoring runs. They're scoring over 10 runs a game. They might set a record for all I know. Like, Cincinnati is on another planet right now, the way they are playing. So shout out to the Reds. Shout out to the Reds, because I know not a lot of people probably thought that the Reds were going to be real contenders, but they always start off hot, and then it could go downhill from here. But shout out Cincinnati. Now we jump into Sam Darnold. All right. If you don't know, Sam Darnold got traded. He got traded from the New York Jets to the Carolina Panthers. And what this tells me is the Jets have made their mind up on who they want to take it. They're going to get a quarterback no matter what. They're going to get a quarterback because Sam Darnold has never been great in New York. Maybe that's because Adam Gase was a joke, right? It could be. It could be. Or maybe it's just he's not a good quarterback. We're going to figure one of the two out. But Joe Douglas, the Jets GM, says they would have kept Sam Darnold as the quarterback if they weren't picking at the number 2 spot in the draft. If our pick was a little bit later, we wouldn't be having this discussion right now. We would be comfortable moving ahead with Sam. So, you have a chance to go get Zach Wilson. Is Zach Wilson really going to be that much better than Sam Darnold? We'll see. Justin Fields, we'll see. We all know they wanted Trevor Lawrence, and they didn't get him. So, I feel like it's an interesting trade just to get rid of him. Because, look, the Jets suck. I'm not going to lie here. The Jets suck. And Robert Saleh is a great coach, an up-and-coming coach. And now he gets his quarterback, right? And the Jets have 21 picks in the next 2 drafts. None of them are in the 7th round, too, by the way. So they're pretty loaded, right? They're loaded. They have 2 first-round picks in this draft, a second-rounder, and then it's a lot from there. They have their rebuild's looking good if they use their picks wisely. Now, for the Panthers side of things, and the Jets gave up on Sam Darnold kind of fast. I mean, he is only 23 years old. He's only 23 years old. But now I think this benefits Sam Darnold. He enters a situation where he's now coached by Matt Rule and Joe Brady and has Christian McCaffrey in his backfield. He has DJ Moore as a lead wide receiver. And Robbie Anderson, they used to play together in New York. He's got weapons. It's a much-needed fresh start. And the Panthers do face the Jets next season, so Sam Darnold might have a little bit of a revenge game. So, go Sam. But that's interesting. That was interesting. Now, the Panthers ended up getting a 6th-round pick out of it, or the Jets did, a 6th-round pick, and a 2nd and a 4th. So not bad, but they were really, really okay with just giving him up. I think a new coach, new quarterback coach, new everything in New York, maybe it's a fresh start for him. He could have done something, but they didn't want him. They got rid of him, and now he goes to Carolina. I think this actually benefits Sam Darnold. I think getting him out of New York is a blessing for him. And now he can go to Carolina, which is not as big as a market, doesn't really have to have the media down his throat. And I actually think it's a better situation. You go from the Jets to, like I said, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Christian McCaffrey, and Joe Brady's a pretty good quarterback coach last time I checked, because he's made some guys like Joe Burrow and stuff like that at LSU. So, not bad. But that finally got some NFL talk. Hopefully we get more Russell Wilson still in Seattle. Still not on the move. But Signings are happening left and right. Not much on this show to talk about. A lot of college basketball things, all that fun stuff, some more transfers. Baylor is our 2021 national champion. No shot. Nobody would have beaten them this year. It's sad to see the tournament finally come to an end. It really is, because March Madness is the greatest thing ever, right? And now we have to sit through baseball, a long regular season of 162 games of baseball. NBA playoffs should be coming soon. MLB or NHL playoffs should be coming soon. But the summer, you just try to get through it, because you got college football in the fall, college basketball in the winter, and then March, right? But here we are with the MLB. The All-Star games now moved to Colorado, which that's a little questionable. By the way, I'm not going to get into details on that, but if the Braves get if the All-Star game gets pulled out of Atlanta for a certain reason and now you go to Colorado, interesting. But it is what it is. But that's going to end this show. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Sorry we didn't get a championship. That was good. A lot of people thought Gonzaga was going to be a great undefeated team. Well, if the 38-0 Kentucky Wildcats team, who did it in the SEC and actually really never remotely had many close games, LSU was one of them, Ole Miss was one of them, but most games were absolute blowouts. Don't ever speak that Gonzaga and that 2015 Kentucky team are in the same boat. Absolutely not. That's going to wrap it up. I love you guys. Social medias will be in the descriptions. Peace out, and love you guys.